Yo, Snoop here, and for this video I thought I'd just, for the fun of it, go over trying to make a simple Pong game. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't have I didn't do like a design or anything for this. I'm just going to be kind of winging this on the go, so I may be typing some code and changing it around and all that other stuff. Still going to be using RCBasic for this, and then possibly maybe in the next video I'll do this same thing in SDL just to show comparisons. So I guess with a Pong game, the first thing we have to worry about coding is the paddles. So I'm going to create I'll make a variable called paddle paddle1 equals, for now, actually paddle1 underscore x equals 0. Yeah, we'll go with that. Actually, no, I'm gonna say put it out there, put 5, and paddle1 underscore y. I'll set that to 5 also, I guess. And then I'll put paddle2 underscore x. We'll set it. We're gonna use our screen width of 640 by 480 again. This is just like the screen width I'm used to, so I just continue to use it. So we want this maybe 5 pixels off of that edge of the screen. So 640 minus 5, we'll go with 635 for that. And then paddle2 y, we'll set to 5 also. And that's basically just, we haven't done anything with any of these variables, but this is gonna be our first paddle, the paddle on the left side of the screen, and this is gonna be our second paddle, the paddle on the right side of the screen. This is the x value, which is pretty much 5 pixels off of the far right edge of the screen. And this, setting both of them to 5, puts them at the same height on the screen, even though they're across from each other. And the last thing we have to worry about in a Pong game, obviously, is the ball. So we'll call this variable ball underscore x, set it equal to we'll start, I guess we could start it out in the middle of the screen. I don't know how an actual Pong game works, but we're doing this on our own, so I'm going to start it off at maybe 320, and ball y, it's half of 480, I think it's 240, so we'll set that to 240, and that gives us just our basic setup for that. Also, really I could manually do this in my drawing functions, but I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to set a width and height for all of them too. So our paddles are going to be the same width and height, so we can use one width and height for both paddles, and we'll just say paddle w equals, we'll make it trying to think of a decent number. I guess we'll make it about 5 pixels wide, and paddle underscore h equals, I want to make them kind of small but not too small, so we'll try 20, and same, we'll set a width and height for the ball too. So ball width, we'll go with we'll just make it a 10 by 10. And the reason I'm setting variables for this is because it makes it easier later on to change these, rather than manually setting the variables when you're drawing it and then having to go through and change it everywhere you decided to draw it or check for collisions or whatever. And I'm not really going to, at least for this video, I'm not gonna overly explain too much of this code. I'm going pretty slow because I don't type fast at all. It's kind of hard to believe, but I really don't type fast at all. This is about as fast as I type right now. So we got our variable set up, and I think we might want to have another variable just for score. Start that at 0, and you know what? I may come back up here and add like another variable later, just to determine whether we want to start or quit or whatever. But we may not even need it. I'm gonna set a subroutine for draw paddle, and we will just draw a box for each paddle. We'll use box fill. So box fill, and actually I'm gonna set the color. So set color RGB. We'll make the paddles white, and we'll make the ball white too. Just we can change the color later if we want to. So, and we will draw. And you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. There really isn't a reason to draw the paddles and a ball separately that I can think of. So we'll just call this function draw and have it just draw everything. So what am I doing? Box fill paddle 1_x paddle. And you know what? I just realized I'm using box fill, but really what I want to use is rect fill, because I want to give it a width and height instead of two different x and y positions. So paddle 1x, paddle 1y, paddle 1 width, and paddle 1. Oh, actually, yeah, paddle width, because we said 1 width and height for both paddles. And we'll do another rect fill for the other paddle. So paddle 2x, paddle 2y, paddle width, and paddle height. Alright. And that draws our paddles. And the last thing, you know what? I will set a separate color for the ball. Maybe it'll just make it look a little bit cooler. So let's make the ball just completely green. So, oops, 255, 0. And this should give us a completely green ball. And I'm going to draw the ball as a rectangle also. So rect fill, and let's say ball x, ball y, ball width, ball height, and that draws our ball, and that gives us everything that we want drawn on the screen. One simple function call to draw everything now. Next thing we will probably, we'll go in and we'll set a subroutine to I guess check collision. And what we want to do is before we even get to that though, let's just set up our while loop for our game. So let's say game loop. I like to use underscores in my code to separate like words and stuff like that. But you can, I know a lot of people, instead of using underscores, they'll just separate it by like the capital letters like that. And you can really do whatever you want inside your code. It's just me. And I like I said, I don't even have it like really designed or anything, because normally when you're building a game, the first thing you want to do before you can start on anything, and I've coded like a few really terrible games. First thing you probably want to do is like just start like designing it like on paper, like here, like build in the rules and stuff like that. But Pong is pretty simple, so I figured I could just knock it out in one go. And I'm gonna set game loop equal to true, and while game loop, we'll say and this is where we have to decide whether we want to draw first, or do we want to check for collision first, or do we want to check for events first. I'm going to check for events first, and I'm going to make another subroutine up here for events. So sub check events, and this is only really going to be checking our key presses and stuff like that. I may just for like simplicity just use the mouse to control like one paddle, and then the other paddle will just kind of like try to follow the ball as closely as possible, or so we're gonna be doing some AI, because we have to make the other paddle move on its own and like kind of not be completely stupid, but we don't want to make it too smart either. And really, I'm not going to design any advanced AI for this, because it would take longer than I want this video to be. So I'm probably just going to just slow the second paddle down, so eventually it will miss the ball. So first thing I want to do is check events. We're just going to call that check events subroutine, and then check events, check collision, and draw, and then we will call update, and that'll end our while loop. And you know what, I'm going to put this up here with these other global variables, that way that it can be accessed from within our check events function, so we can change game loop if the escape key is pressed. So we can put if key k underscore escape, and game loop equals false, and if. Now we can do if, and you know what, we could do a bunch of if statements to check for each of these, but we're gonna have to, because it's a mouse thing. So we can create variables here, so like we'll just say dim x, dim y, dim that's all we really want, I guess, is, and actually I guess dim button 1, dim button 2, and dim button 3. Now we are just going to pass those to get mouse, which takes x, y, button 1, button 2, and button 3. And now we can check, and this is we are like we're checking for events here, so I'm thinking maybe I want these global too. I think they need to be, so but I'm to differentiate, I'm going to call this mouse x and mouse y and we'll just call those buttons 1, 2, and 3, and change that to mouse X, mouse Y, and create, put those up here too, so they can be accessed by all these other subroutines as well. And that way, right, and now I'm thinking that we can get the mouse there. And if mouse if mouse Y is greater than like 0, greater than or equal to 0, and mouse Y is less than 480, is when it was less than 480, then we will set paddle 1 Y equal to mouse Y, and that will move our paddle as long as our mouse is within the screen. And now we will do I think that's really it for checking events, because now we've gotten all we need to I guess one other thing we probably want to do is now I'm thinking about it, subroutine just for I want to say I guess I would call this game flow, I guess. And this subroutine is only going to update the ball's position, and it will update the paddle to Y. So for the ball, I'm going to have it, and to do this, I'm going to need to do this up here, which is going to seed my fuel my random seed generator. Well, it's going to seed my random number generator. That's what I meant to say. And now I can use a random number for just starting, and the random number I'm going to start with, I need an angle for the ball to move in, so I'm going to say ball angle. Do I want to just use that much math though is the real thing? I really don't. So I am being lazy right now. I'm gonna say ball ball X move, actually ball move X, I'll call it that. Ball move X equals 0, and ball move Y equals 0. And actually, no, what we want to do is set this to a random number here. So rand, we'll say 3, and rand 3, and we want to make sure it's at least 1, and like rand is going to, like, its lowest number could possibly be 0, so we will just go ahead and add 1 to, we'll add 1 to it. So it's going to be at least 1, and it could possibly be up to 4. So let me change those to 2. And now I can go into here, game flow, and say paddle. Well, actually, what I want to do is, paddle 2 underscore x equals paddle 2x plus ball move x, and paddle 2, actually it's not even paddle 2, what am I doing, it's ball. So we'll say ball y equals, and I'm ball y plus ball move y, and we'll say paddle, for paddle 2, since we wanted to kind of try to catch where ball is, we'll say if ball, if ball y is greater than paddle 2y, then paddle 2y equals paddle 2y plus 1, else if ball y is less than paddle 2y, then paddle 2y equals paddle 2y minus 1, and else, and you know what, I said that, but we don't want to increase paddle by that much, because otherwise it'll always be where the ball is. So we'll say like 0.7 or 0.6. That's just going to slow it down. And else paddle 2y. Actually, if we don't even need an else, because else we're just going to do nothing. So that changes the paddle, the second paddle's location. It's just like some ridiculous, stupid AI. So we now need, we have the ball and the paddles drawn here, and so, and we got the paddle moving here along with the ball moving there. Now we need, in in check events, we got our mouse. If our mouse moves, it'll move the paddle as well. So now we just need to check for collision, and we want to check for collision not only with the edges of the screen but also the top of the screen, because we don't want it going past the top of the screen and below the bottom of the screen. So in check collision, we will say if that I think about it, I have this check collision thing here, but it can still, I ain't gotta worry about that paddle, and I still have to worry about the ball though. And in that case, is it even worth having that when we could just simply check for it inside of, like, when we're changing it? And that's what I'm probably going to do. So we'll just check for a collision when we're changing it, and we'll say if ball X plus ball move X is greater than was it 6? We'll say if it's greater than 635. Was it? That's right, 635. Oops, like having those spaces. So if it's greater than 635, then next thing, we don't want it, we want it to only bounce off if it actually hit the paddle. So if the ball's X is like greater than, and you know what, we'll say greater than or equal to 635 because the paddle is being drawn at 635. So to check if the ball like hit the paddle, and you know what, I made another mistake because the balls, we'll say greater than 635 minus the ball's width. That way we're checking for like the right side of the ball instead of the left side of the ball, and we want to make sure it's hitting the paddle. So the X, we've already checked for X with, you know, the if, the started if right here. If ball X plus ball move X is greater than or equal to 635, which is the left side of the paddle, plus, yes, the left side of the paddle, yeah, left side of the paddle, so minus the ball's width, which is going to be where ball X should be. If it's, you know, basically, you know, so if the right side of the ball hit the left side of the paddle, that's what we're checking for there, then we want to make sure the Y values are kind of lined up. So the Y values we're checking for, just because like our ball is, what's the height of the ball? The ball is 10, going to be 10 pixels tall. What we want to do is set the, we want to check if, yeah, like if ball Y is, I say if ball Y is greater than, if ball Y is greater than paddle 2Y actually paddle 2Y, sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. I literally am doing this in my head, so it's so paddle, we'll say paddle 2Y is the top, what's the top of the paddle, and ball Y is the top of the ball. So we want to know if ball Y is greater than the paddle Y minus the ball's height. Yeah. And then we can also check for the other condition, the bottom of the paddle. So, or ball Y is less than, or actually, yes, if ball Y is less than paddle 2Y plus paddle height. Yeah, we set paddle height. And you know what? Yeah, that's really all we need to check for there. So plus paddle 2 height, then oh yeah, if either of those happen, I mean if this if statement happened, well, if, like, first of all, if this if statement happened, that means the ball is on the edge of the screen where it's expecting a collision with the paddle. if it doesn't, so if it has this collision with the paddle, it'll have the collision with the paddle if this if statement's true, and then we just want to bounce the ball off. So whatever angle we're going at, we want to like kind of like send it in the other direction. So to do that, and you know what, I am going to go ahead and say, like, yeah, we will to do that. We will just, honestly, I'm just going to reverse the angle that the ball is currently going in on both the X and the Y. So, and I'll probably adjust this a little bit more later. This is not going to be some perfect first, run through of Pong, like, but it's, just, something I thought I'd do. So ball, like, we want to change ball move X. So ball move X equals, we'll say ball move X equals -1 times ball move X, and that's just reversing the direction and ball move X is going. We're going to do the same thing with Y, equals -1 times ball move Y, and that's if it paddle. If it didn't hit the paddle, then what we want to do is this, where we're just going to say you know what, we'll say like score equals score plus 1, and then we will reset the ball to the middle of the screen. So ball X equals, what do we do this? 320 and 240. So 320, ball Y equals 240, and then we'll set ball move X to 1 plus that random number again, ball move Y to the random number again too. So yeah, that should, I mean, it's not going to be anything fancy, but yeah, it gets the job done. And that's if ball X plus ball is greater than, but we also have to check, we have to check the other parts of the screen too. So and we're going to do so I don't even think we should do an else if. That way we can check the if we do an else if, it might not be able to check the corners. So we'll just separate this into 4 different ifs. And the second if is going to check for the left side of the screen. I know I checked the right, now I'm checking the left, then I'll check the top and the bottom, so kind of going all over the place here. But we'll say ball X plus, actually, ball X plus ball move X is less than, less than or equal to, we want to check if it's less than or equal to paddle. Actually, no, not even paddle 1. We want to check if it's less than or equal to, less than or equal to 5 plus 5. So less than or equal to, we'll say paddle. I should have did it on the first if too, which I may fix. I may not, So paddle 1 X plus paddle width, and we're basically checking for the same thing in here too. Ball Y greater than paddle 1 y minus ball height, or ball y less than paddle 2 y plus paddle height, then ball move x equals -1 times ball move x, ball move y equals -1 times ball move y, and else we pretty much doing the same thing here, except, you know what, instead of changing, like dropping the score, I'd say we just end the game. So we'll just say was it like game loop equals false, and then we will we're not, since we're ending the game, we don't really need to do any other stuff. So what we can just do is just cause the subroutine to just return by hitting return, and then end if. And end if. I just noticed I didn't end this if. I tried to end the program there, which would have caused the compiler error because it didn't end all the if statements. So now we have it checking the left and right. Now we need to check the top and the bottom of the screen. So if ball y plus ball move y is greater than, or actually we'll say if it's greater than what, 640, greater than or equal to 640, because that's the height of our screen, then we don't need to check for the x because we're not checking for a collision with a paddle or anything this time. So all we really need to do is just change the direction. So ball move y equals ball move y I'm trying to think, we have ball move y, yeah, ball move y times -1, and then and if, that's all we really need to do for that. And then if for the top of the screen, ball, oops, crap, if ball y plus ball move y is less than 0, less than or equal to 0, then ball move y equals ball move y times -1, and end that if. Oh boy. And then we, after we do all those checks and stuff, we just add ball x and ball move y there, and that's, you know, checking the balls, and it's checking for the paddles. And now we in our drawing code, maybe we want to, after we, you know, draw all this stuff, we will draw the score. So I am not going to use print s to draw source code, simply because print s and input s and stuff like that, it's screen. I tried to like mimic the way RCBasic does it, and I was the way my it works in RCBasic, it really only functions as a way of, you know, using just a text input style program in a graphical window. So it's not necessarily handy for like using scores or anything. So we definitely want to be able to draw text, and to draw text we need a font. Let me save this like to a place where I have the font already. That way I don't have to go out here and try to move it. So desktop, I know I have it, and was it? Where are you at? New folder and demo, and yeah, we'll save it here as pong.bas and save. And now I'm just going to, at the top of our program, load font. We'll load in font slot 0. We're going to load free mono.ttf, and now we make sure we're using font 0. We shouldn't even have to do that because it'll automatically do it for us. Oh, and can't believe I'm forgetting this. When you load the font, you also have to set the size in RCBasic. That's a little difference. In RCBasic, you would set the size when you're actually drawing a font. RCBasic does it when loading font, because I discovered, and I think this may be something that, you know, the developers of RCBasic might want to fix too, is when the font's loaded, it's create when not when the font's loaded, when the SDLTT, like the TrueType font library, loads the font, it creates a surface for the font in that size every time you load it. I don't know how the internals of RCBasic handle that, but if it's just using the typical like SDL, like what was it, the TTF, I forgot what the function's called, but that function that initially creates a surface from the font so that you can use it for rendering and stuff, it's slow, and it's not noticeable on computers at all. It's not noticeable on PC, but when I started porting programs to Android using that method, it slowed the program down to the point where it couldn't even be used. And I was like, nah, there just gotta be, like, this is not a good way to implement this at all. So I decided to change that completely. So I'm gonna say set color, say RGB 255, 255, 255, and now I'm gonna just draw text. And text we want to draw is score, and we'll put score. Oops, we have to convert score to a string, so score, and we'll say put this at, well, we're going to try to 0, 0, and yeah. And that draws our text for a score like that. Make sure to increase score when, scores increase when that happens. And when our mouse moves, and we no longer have that check collision thing. We just have check events and draw, and also game flow, which we'll check events, we'll do game flow, and then we'll draw. And then at the end of it, oh, actually one other thing, since I'm drawing each time, I want to also clear the canvas. And that reminds me, I haven't even opened a graphics window to do this stuff with yet. So we can open a graphics window here. So we'll say window open, and we'll open window 0. Let's call this Pong, and we'll say window POS centered. Window POS centered. 640, 480, and 0. And now canvas open, which if you don't get what this is, I made a video on like setting up graphics and like doing like a video on the introduction to graphics in RCBasic. Highly recommend checking it out if you are confused about like window open or canvas open or something like that. So 640, 480, 0, 0, 640, 480, and we're only using one window, so 0. Now we have that, and like when our program ends, when the game ends, we'll say we're going to clear the canvas one more time, and then we will just we will print, not even print as, draw text, game over, and we will, oops, and we'll do that in the middle screen, so 320 and 240, and wait key, and we'll call window close to close the window. Actually, before that, you might want to call canvas close canvas. And really, this is unnecessary because when the program ends, or when end is called or whatever, RCBasic will automatically do that internally. So now, in theory, this will run. I'm hoping. Let's see. Mouse underscore Y does not exist by ref error. Like line 93. So let's go to line 93. It's saying we didn't make a variable called mouse Y. We didn't, because that has a, I don't know if you can see that, but I accidentally named it mouse, like with an X. So let's see if this runs now. And we have a kind of, sort of, it's like not really working out too well right now. Oh man, that thing is moving way too fast. So let's, first of all, I like the collision with the sides of the screen isn't working either. But our paddles move. They're moving. So yeah, let's fix that real quick. And I think that problem is probably with where is it? Well, I know where it is. It's in this horrible logic I did, all this stuff here, and the fact that these random numbers are just too darn high. So say random 1, and let's see if that slows the ball down enough now. Just see that. That's better. The ball's moving at a better speed. And I think the problem I'm noticing is it always kind of bounces at the same angle. Ah, boy. So maybe to fix that, I don't know. I imagine if, like, cause right here it's saying if it's hitting the right paddle, it would do that. But if it doesn't hit the right paddle, but if it's, yeah, I think it's because right here, when we're saying ball times, if it's greater than or equal to, let's try, ball y plus ball move y is greater than or equal to 639. Let's see. I doubt that. Oh, I know why now. I just realized my mistake. We're checking to see if ball wise is greater than 630. Originally it was 640, but our screen is 480 pixels tall. So we're going like, we're not checking for anything until it's like almost 200 pixels off the screen, which would cause an error like that. So we want to check for is like maybe like 480, and now we can. And technically, we really want to just check for 479 and 0, and now we should get something better. Should at least hit the bottom of the screen and bounce off properly. And it is. Now it's still bouncing at that same angle no matter what. And I think it's because like when it hits the left side, its Y is not reversing. Its Y is reversing actually. It's what else am I doing this? Y, right, so Y gets reversed, but Y shouldn't be getting reversed. It should be just X that gets reversed when it hits the left side of the screen, which is this right here, I believe. When it hits this right here, we don't want to reverse ball move Y there. We want it to continue to move in the Y direction it's moving in, and we only want to change X. And here we're checking to see if it hit the paddle on the right side of the screen, and if it did, it's changing the X, but we don't want to necessarily change the Y, at least not here. And this is just setting it back to the middle of the screen. That's if it didn't hit the paddle. So if ball Y is greater than the paddle Y, and ball Y actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna change right to this. I want to say if ball Y plus ball height is greater than paddle 2Y, and ball Y is less than paddle 2Y plus paddle height, and that'll cause the X to reverse, else it'll set it back to no screen, increase score by 1, and set it in another random direction. Now if this is only ending otherwise, so I think this still needs, I don't know why it did things that way. That was just so much harder for no reason. So ball height is greater than paddle 1, or ball Y is less than, and I'm kind of happy with that. Now ball Y plus ball move Y, if it's greater than the edge of the screen, it's just going to reverse Y, which is what I want, and it reverses Y if it's less than 0. And now we should get a little bit more favorable results. It's bouncing off the edges of the screen properly now, but it's still not like doing what we wanted to do, which it should be like increasing score if it doesn't hit the paddle, and it should be just ending the game otherwise. So why is the score not increasing now, and why is that other stuff not happening? Basically, this seems to always be true even if it's not hitting the paddle. And yeah, this video is actually turning out already to be longer than I wanted it to be, but this is me just going through building a simple Pong game, and I will maybe get this working, otherwise I will make a second video, but I'm gonna give it like another 5 or 10 minutes. So let's say we want first thing we're checking here is if X was, and actually I just saw it. I just found the problem. If this is checking if X was greater than or equal, that, and that if it hit, actually no, that wasn't the problem. It would reverse X else, but since none of this is actually happening, this never happens for some reason, because this seems to always be true. If this is true, if the ball is past that point and the y ball plus ball height, which the ball height never changes, is always going to be 10. So if ball y plus 10 is greater than, and that's supposed to be and, that's why. That is why. Because without the and, one of them was always going to be true no matter what. It was either going to be greater than the top of the paddle or less than the bottom of the paddle, because that pretty much puts it anywhere on the screen at that point. And that was a very stupid mistake on my part. So now let's run this. And now our score increases every time it hits the edge of the screen, which is pretty much every time, because the paddle cannot keep up with the ball. Yeah, you can see our score going up though. It's going up just drastically, and it's probably the easiest game of Pong ever made by now. So what I'm going to do to fix that, maybe increase the height of paddle 2. So, well, actually, we set both of them to that, so we'll increase the height of both of them to 50. That way it's easier for this paddle to keep up with it. And now the paddle, and the game ends when, so we have a working Pong game now. It just sucks. It sucks terribly. And I'm gonna go ahead and post this code the way it is right now, and maybe I will post the update to this code if I decide to fix it, but this is just me, going through a simple coding demo. And we got a working Pong game, and I don't think it took more than maybe an hour or so. I don't know how long I've been going for. Probably, about an hour. So that was a Pong game in an hour. That's not bad, I guess. I'm gonna go ahead save this, and I will post this code to the RCBasic form. Actually, I'm like, after taking some feedback from some users on the RCBasic forum, I'm probably gonna switch the RCBasic forum over to something else. So in the meantime, I will at least post this code to the RCBasic website. Along with, I'll post it to the RCBasic forum, and I'm gonna go ahead and rewrite this whole thing in RCBasic in my next video too. So like other videos, if you want to try out RCBasic for yourself, it's free and open source software, available under the MIT license, which if you don't know anything about MIT license, it's as unrestricted as an open source license could get. You basically have the freedom to do whatever you want with the software. I want it to be used by people. I want it to be shared, modified, and while you do not have to share your changes that you make to it, I would appreciate it. That way it can be made better for other users. But check that out at RCBasic.com. And also, I will give another plug to RCBasic. I do not, sdlbasic.altervista.org or something like that. I'll post a link there in the description too, and I will do a video redoing this horrible Pong game in RCBasic in the next video. Until then, later.